So Vancer is finally back with two new mice, the Groove and the Thrash, and both of these mice unfortunately have issues of their own. In terms of the specs, it's pretty much going to be the same as any other mouse that has recently released. Inside, you'll find one of blue shell pink dots for the switches. You'll also find a Pixar 3395 for the sensor, along with the NRF 52840 MCU, allowing the mouse to go up to those higher polling rates. The weight on the Thrash is around 50 grams and then around 48 grams for the Groove. Quality wise, the Thrash has to be one of the worst mice I have ever tried when we are just talking about the quality. My unit is plagued with issues, with some of them making the mouse pretty much impossible to use. Starting off with the biggest issue, and that's going to be with the right trigger. For some reason, if I am holding the right click for more than a couple of seconds, the mouse just decides it doesn't want to activate the right trigger anymore. As an example, I can be aiming down sights in game and the mouse will just deactivate the right trigger, causing me to un-ADS in game. So in games that require heavy use of aiming down sights, I just avoid using the Thrash if I can. Second issue with this mouse is the side buttons feeling absolutely horrible. More importantly, the back one, it has some of the worst post travel I have ever seen, and on top of that, it has this weird grinding between the plastic of the side button and the shell of the mouse, making the side buttons feel really cheap and horrible. And then finally, the quality and construction of the shell overall just feels very cheap and is a creaky mess. Moving over to the Groove, the quality is greatly improved. The shell of the mouse is pretty rigid with a slight amount of flex that won't be noticeable unless you are really pushing onto it. Both of the triggers feel really solid and are decently light and tactile, and I didn't run into any issues with them at all. Same can be said with the side buttons, had no real issues with them as well. Just overall, it feels like the two mice were manufactured in two completely different factories. The quality on the Groove is really good, while the Thrash feels like the cheapest mouse I have ever tried. The only thing that felt good across these two mice is going to be the stock skates and the coating. The stock skates are from BTL, so they are going to be pretty high quality and they are a bit on the faster side of things. It's definitely one of my favorite stock skates. The coating is good as well. It does have this slight rubbery feel to it. Worked well when my hands were dry, but I can see this coating being an issue for people with wetter hands. Right out of the box, both of these mice are compatible with 4000 Hz polling rate. The dongles that come with these mice are probably some of the nicest ones I have seen come included. On the screen you can see information such as the battery life, DPI, polling rate, and other less useful things. Currently, the screen on the dongle is the only way to see what settings you are using. Vancer has told us that the software is in development, but personally I thought it would be releasing at the same time as the mice, as to me that just makes the most sense. So currently the only way to change the settings on the mice are to use the various button combinations, which are all listed in the user manual. The shapes on these mice are vastly different and are targeted at completely different people. Personally, I was using the Thrash way more, as the shape just worked way better for me, while the Groove was just an awkward mess. The shape on the Thrash is pretty much perfect for claw grip. The middle of the mouse is pretty thin, allowing you to pull the mouse back into your palm. The position of the hump is towards the back of the mouse, so if you do claw grip, it's not going to be as weird to hold compared to if the hump was located more towards the middle of the mouse. Overall, I just enjoy the shape of the Thrash way more, as I do primarily use a claw grip and a fingertip grip with 16.5 by 9 cm hands, so my hands are on the smaller side of things. One part of the mouse I did not enjoy at all was the part of the mouse where my ring finger sits. I do wish this part of the mouse was a bit flatter, as having my ring finger in that position just wasn't the most comfortable. So overall, if you have small to medium hands and claw grip, this shape is probably for you. Even for fingertip, this mouse was great. Now onto the Groove, which I absolutely hated when it comes to the shape of this mouse. It's also the mouse I spent the least time with, so I don't really have that much to say about it. The hump on this mouse is more centralized and the sides of the mouse are flatter than the Thrash, as well as being wider, so in total just making the mouse feel very awkward in my hands and pretty much borderline unusable. If you do have small hands like me, I would just stay away from this mouse unless you fingertip. Just like Vancer's past couple releases, their mice always have something wrong with them, and the Groove and Thrash are no exception, sadly. As much as I wanted to like the Thrash, it just wasn't something I felt comfortable using, just because of the really poor build quality. The Groove quality wise is way better, but the shape is just very hit or miss for some people when compared to the Thrash, which in my opinion is just a way safer shape. If you can get a good unit of the Thrash, or you do like the shape of the Groove, then these mice are going to be top notch, but personally for me, I just think these mice are nothing special at all, and Vancer probably needs to rethink some design choices for these mice.